and welcome back to card number 2 from our card making class projects in the month of November. So this is the card we're going to do today, and this one has a whole bunch of different die cuts. And while I have a Cricut here and I use some of our old cartridges, I also have some of our SVG files from the current paper collection. So it's a mixture of everything, whatever I had on hand. But if you don't have a die cutting machine, if you don't have any of these things, just if you have a Cricut or a Silhouette, just go through the images you have. You might find something similar that will work. Or in the catalog, we have a couple of die sets and stems for leaves. We also have this one here that's in the annual catalog. It's called the Merriest Season, which has these leaf type of things that I used here. It's got some pines in it, which will work. Or this little branch, and you have this little flower here, which you can use and maybe layer it double, put a little bit gold glitter in the middle for a poinsettia. You can use the berries, and you even have a little phrase here. So there are multiple sets in the annual book that might fill the needs, and they come with a die. So there's a matching die in here as well. So you can cut those out or fuzzy cut them if you just want the stem set. And for the phrase, so again, I used my Cricut because I had to prep it for class and I needed like 30 or so. But if you don't have a machine, we have also just dies for brackets in the catalog, and they are in different, there might be some here that are retired, but see, they come in different shapes and forms. So there's always one that might work for you. So just check them out. Or a tag. If you have a tag form, we can use, instead of doing this one, you can use a tag like I know this one is still available. We can use a big one for the bigger phrases. If you're using a smaller phrase, you can use a smaller one. We have this new one. I don't have this here. This has multiple different tags included, and there are different shapes too. But you can see this. There's on the website is a new special right now. It's called Seas and Greetings, and that uses these different dies. So there's a variety of different things you can use if you don't have this one. I also used our stamp of the month for October, which is no longer available because it had these really great phrases on there. So just a little tip, if you're new to scrapbooking or card making, phrases is one of the things you can never have enough. And they're always hard to come by, and especially if you have something like this where you have just a really nice block of a saying or something to put on a card. They're awesome. This particular one, like I said, was the stamp of the month for October, and you even get those for $5. So there, you can't go wrong with these. The other one that I used for the inside here, which looks like this, is actually from a set that I have now for years, which was a specialty set, but it came with, again, a bunch of different phrases. What I really liked, it had the Merry Christmas and Happy New Year on here, wishing you joy, love, and happiness. So different phrases and different items like the pines here, the little berries, the little holly leaves, snowflakes, some hearts. So it's a whole bunch of different stems on one sheet. So these things are gold. So if you see something and they're worth, you know, paying a little bit more sometimes if you only get them in a stem set, in a workshop kit or special, but they really come in handy for a long time. So these are two that are no longer available. But again, if you have issues or you don't have anything like this, for example, the current catalog, October, December, has this set included. It's C1914. It's 1 star, 1 night, 1 child, and it has 3 different phrases. We're going to use one later in one of the other cards, but you can see they're similar shaped, so that would be something you could use on this card front as well. So there are always options. If you don't have the exact one, if you want to look for something that fits, or you really love something that you see that I'm using, well, you can always check back with me and see if it's still available, if there's a chance of getting it. Maybe I have still some in stock, because I have stuff that I have for crops that I sell and other things, so never hurt to check back. Other than that, let's get to it. So this is a paper we had a couple years ago, a Christmas paper that I used here, and we're gonna start putting things together. So when you open your package, there's gonna be a whole bunch of little things in here, as you can see. So your inside is stamped, so make sure you're holding it the right way around. And then let's put these a little bit apart. So we have our little poinsettias here. And then I just cut out a couple gold stars for the big ones in the center. And then we have these leaves, and these leaves come in two pieces, so we have to adhere them. And just so you know, so you might see, let me show you on this bigger one here. So I'm using the darker side of both of those papers. And when you say, what is the darker side? Well, our cardstock is two-tone. Can you see how the green is a shade lighter on the back side? So is this one here. It's not a lot, but I'm using the darker side, and you could just flip them around if you wanted to use the lighter side. And they line perfectly up. Here are the two small branches, and then we have the phrase, and then we have our paper. So let's get started with the paper, because this is just centered in the middle here. And you're just gonna put this in here. And place it so we have a nice even white frame around the card. And I like to use the liquid adhesive because it gives you a little bit time to move it around if it's not quite centered. Since I'm looking a little bit from the side on it, it's sometimes hard for me to see. So here you go. Voila. Make sure it opens the right way. So this is the way we built on here. And when you look at the from the side here a little bit, you might be able to see, so the center piece here is raised, the whole thing, and then this leaf is popped up, and then the big star is popped up, and the rest is kind of like just stacked on top of each other. So next, we're just gonna continue with our phrase, and this one goes straight on top of this brown one here. Again, making sure we have a nice even frame around it. There we are. And this one is raised, but I don't want to put this down just yet because we have to tuck our leaves underneath. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my foam spacers, and you know me by now, I love to use those thin ones. So these are not close to my heart, these are my own, but I still have a whole bunch of them. And I am always running low on the ones we have in the catalog because my ladies love them. So we have the thin cut, the thin and the thick or the regular foam spacers. We have the round ones, and they come in a small and in a bigger circle. And then we also have them on a roll. And actually, I don't have any here. So they come either on a roll, so you can cut them yourself, or they come pre-cut as a little circle, either or. But they come in a thinner version, which is as thick as this one is, or the thicker, which is about double the size. I usually only use the thicker one when I do shaker cards, because that just makes it easier, and I make sure I have enough room to put my elements inside so it shakes well. But other than that, I usually go with the thin one. All right, and then we just have to adhere these two parters together. So they're easy to line up. You have two bumps here, and one big one on the bottom. So this is the piece that comes on top here. But if you open your package, you also should see that they're already put on top of each other. And I usually do this because I have to make sure that I give you the correct ones that go together. And then I also make sure I don't forget one. All right, now let's do the leaves. And if you have tweezers, use them. That way your fingers get less sticky. So we're just adding a little bit adhesive here on those little leaves. And maybe a little bit on the stem. But since this disappears underneath all the other leaves, it's not really a big deal. Okay. Tack this down. On to the next. And I try not to squeeze. This is a little bit newer bottle, so there's still a lot when you squeeze lightly that comes out. But you don't really need a lot. Nice thing about this glue is it dries clear, so even if something oozes out, you won't see it later. It might show now. Okay. And then for the thin ones. So I know people struggling with those, and there are different ways. Some of you have these, like the art glitter glue that has this very fine tip here where you pull the needle out. You have to be careful with this one. Don't leave it open too long because it does dry very quick and clog up your tip. And then you just go a little bit, you know, let's do this one here. Just clean the tip off a little bit. There's some old glue sitting on here that we don't. Okay, 1.5. And you definitely want a tweezer to hold on to your piece. That makes it easier. Okay. There we go. And we don't need a lot, so I squeeze too hard. Okay. And then you flip it over. Let's close this again. And then this just goes somewhat in the center of this. There you have it. Now you might say, okay, I don't have this glue. Other solution would be using a glue pen, and there are different glue pens out here. So quick glue, glue pen, liquid, whatever you have on hand, try that. If you don't have anything like this on hand, use an old piece of plastic from a packaging or something. Squirt a little bit of your adhesive, liquid adhesive on there. Get yourself a toothpick and just dip it in the tip of the toothpick. Pick up some adhesive and then put it on the paper. That will work too. So this one here, yeah, there's a little bit of glue coming out, but it's hard to see for you. Let's try this one here. So these are glue pens I have for a while. I don't really use them a lot because most of the time I use my liquid adhesive. And this one needs some encouragement here. Oh, there it is. Now it's coming out. They kind of dry a little bit too when you don't use them a lot. So let's try this here. I don't know if you can see there is some adhesive on there, but not a lot that's coming out of this one here. But we'd give it a try. You have to work fast with these two because naturally this is such a thin layer of glue. They dry really fast. Okay, there we have it. Okay, so this is I don't even know if we have those in the catalog still. I have to look. I know we have these ones here. And this one, I have to play around a little bit. I think they come in a 2-pack. And it's also just white adhesive. Yeah, there's a little bit coming out here of those. Okay. But those are the 2 options I would say you can use if you don't have any of those different glues that I use here, which is fine. Usually this is my go-to one. So it's a tape runner. Some people prefer others, but whatever you have on hand is fine. Now those poinsettias have a little bit of glitter to them. We just use a glitter gel pen. And here is another little tip. Let's see if actually these ones don't show as big. Well, maybe a little. Sometimes what happens is, so when we cut them with the machine, let's go with the two bigger ones. You can see a little bit of the white cardstock, the core, peeking through. And when you flip them over, that's the back side that was tucked to the mat when we were cutting it. It doesn't show because that's not the side where the knife poked in. This is rounder. So if this is something that bothers you, I always just flip mine around and then use the other side. In this case, that's not a problem. If you have pieces that layer together, you might not be able to do that. But if this is something that bothers you, or you always wondered, well, why do I have a little white showing here and there? It's because, you know, the way the knife goes into the paper. So I just used my glitter gel pen and went around the edges here and then did a little inside cross. And this does not have to be perfect. It's a flower. All flowers are different. So let's see. Okay. And we have one more. And for the big stars, the poinsettias, I pretty much just went around the edges because we're gonna adhere that gold star in the center. So we don't really do anything with it in the center. All right. Okay. Now we put a little bit of adhesive in the middle. And then I just place my gold star in the center here. And there's another one. And again, if you feel like, oh, there's some adhesive that's oozed out, just use a knife or a needle or something sharp, pointy, and just scrape it off. It will dry clear with this glue, but if this is bothering you, that's a way to get rid of. Oops, nope, I thought we missed one. All right, and now it's all about composition and where to put your leaves. So I stacked mine this way, so I'm gonna start with this one here towards the bottom. Right here. So it's laying kind of here, and then this one, let's see, goes a little bit further up, so about here. And this is just eyeballing. You can arrange them in any way, shape, or form you want. So I think I keep mine here. Oops. Let's see. Looking good. Now the next thing is this one here. So this one goes on the bottom, in the corner, and about here. And then this one goes on top here. So I'm just doing it kind of like in the vicinity, height-wise, where this one is at. Whoops. And that happens when you have sticky fingers. You pick stuff up again. That's fine. Now we have these two. These are raised. So we're gonna put a few foam dots on these ones here. And we should be good. Okay. Remove the backing. That's always something that gets forgotten. I know, it's hard to believe, but I don't know how many times we had this in class that somebody lifts their project, I'm like, look, I got it. And then next thing you know, everything is falling off. And I'm like, oh, shoot, why does it come off? And then, oh, I forgot to remove the backing. Yep, happens. No big deal. But it's also nice for positioning if you don't remove the backing first. It it's a nice thing to have so you can position everything a little bit better. And if you're a scrapbooker and you do this with your photos, the nice thing is when you do this and you leave, let's say, you know, you have two pieces that overlap, like here, I wouldn't remove these two until I have my photo underneath, and then once this goes on top, I can remove those so they stick together. But that's a different project. All right, now let's get ready and remove these pieces here. So we can adhere this, and then we're gonna arrange our flowers. So this one goes right on top here, and then we have our flowers here. And I started with the big one here, so I'm gonna do this first. See how and since this is partially over the edge but also on top of the raised piece, what I'm gonna do is I just gonna put a little bit of a spacer on one side, and the rest that overlaps we're gonna put up here. So okay, next thing we do is adhere this one here. And it doesn't need a lot of adhesive, and I just push it underneath. And then we have one last one where if you have a tweezer, they come in handy, and we just push this underneath the two here. There we go. And you can start with this one. We can do this on the side here. Let's start with this one first. So I just gonna push this one over here, and then I'm gonna take this one and put this one over, well, we put this one on this one here. Do it a little bit different. There we go. And then we have our big one, which will get glue dots, or not glue dots, foam dots right here, and a little bit adhesive on the side that's gonna adhere to the tag. So just a little bit, but you might not have to do this because they're so little. We don't need a lot of adhesive to hold this in place. All right, and we put these ones on here, and there you have it. There's our card number 2. All the pieces back together, and like I said, where you wanted to position your leaves or your poinsettias, it's up to you. That's the way I did it, but you can play around with them before you adhere them. That's always fun, and just create your own little display. All right. Oh, and the inside. Hello. So this is the inside stamped already for you. And in this case, I took, again, a pencil, and I just did a hand drawn frame around the edges. And I always stop over the stamped image there. I don't go all the way to the corner. Same as on the bottom here. And then for this little bow, I do 2 loops and a little squiggly line. And that's my little bow. All right, card number 2 is done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you back here with card number 3 for the month of November. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.